I think many of you will agree that adding some sort of mood lighting or a candle or something to your home decor really completes the look. And today we're going to put together a autumn glow centerpiece that features a brand new flower and actually holds the Luminera candle that we've used in many projects in the past. So a good way to put this into use throughout all the various seasons. So, as usual, what I'd like to do is just kind of start off by piecing some things together, just to get everything together so that we can go ahead and decorate the final product here once it's all ready and done. So first thing I'm going to do is take this beautiful little maple leaf here that I've embossed and also inked, and I'm going to glue it to this shadow layer here. So let's get our glue on here. I believe that most of the paper that we've used on all of these projects are from DCWV. So they should be readily available at your local Joann's, maybe Michael's, but I think Joann's carries the DCWV stuff. Okay, so let's get this in place. And I'd start on one side just to make sure that the leaf is nice and lined up, and then drop that into place. There's a little circle that is going to kind of be the base or foundation for our little flower. Okay, so let's get this all in place here. And my chair squeaking kind of sounds like my cat. I thought my cat was outside the studio there for a second. Okay. So that's in place. Let's give that a second to set, and let's grab this little oak leaf. Okay, we're going to get this glued down onto the little shadow layer here and get this thing ready for action. Kind of like to take care of these paper piecings, so to speak, first, just to get them out of the way. Then we have less stuff. Kind of get our feet wet with the glue bottle and kind of get our head in the game, so to speak, and ready to take on the more difficult parts, which there's really nothing difficult about this project, to be honest with you. We're making a series of boxes, doing some paper piecing, nothing too technical, so shouldn't have any problems. Now this I ran through the embossing folder or embossing machine with like a little tiny dot sort of folder. Okay, so and that is going to go on like this. We're going to connect these two together, and I don't think it really matters which one goes on top or which one goes on the bottom. I'm going to put the oak leaf underneath. And we're going to do some curling on these pieces. Once we are ready to fully assemble everything, we'll do that, but we want to let the glue kind of set for a bit. Now you're going to have 4 of these, okay, 2 facing the same way, or 2 of each, and we're going to glue them together. And that's just to kind of thicken them up and make them a little stable. I don't like little floral pieces like this when they're just one layer. They tend to kind of just sag and warp, and then they don't really hold their shape very well. So I wanted to kind of double it up. Okay, so glue both of these together. I ended up inking both of them. Don't need to do that. Just ink the one that you're going to put on top. But that's fine. Okay, so just layer those on top of each other, and let's let those set. Make them nice and stiff. It's almost the thickness and consistency of chipboard. Not really, but close. Okay, and we have a little band that we're going to wrap around the actual candle. It's made up of these pieces here. So we're going to put these together, grab the main shadow layer here, and then grab this piece here. And this is going to go right on here like that. It's going to be like a little puzzle piece that we're going to put together. So let's just get our glue on this piece here and just match it up with the little shadow layer there. And then once you kind of have it on there, I would pick it up and move it around, maybe flip it over to make sure that everything is nicely lined up. There we go, that looks good. Okay, now we've got a little leaf here. And let's get our glue on this leaf. Put it in place. This will, if you're doing Dreaming Tree for your fall table decor, this will be a nice little centerpiece to kind of complement the topiary, which I don't know if you can see it. No, you can, it's out of frame. Here's our little topiary that we just got done. Probably gonna make 2 of those. Either that or I'm gonna save my energy and make a couple of those for Halloween. I'm not sure yet, but I think either way it'll look cool. Okay, so grab the other leaf, and again, this is just like a little puzzle piece, and I might have put a little too much glue on there. Okay, just match that up nicely. Scooch it in wherever it needs to be scooched in. Okay, so there's that. We have a thin little, in my case, purple piece. It's the little vein for the middle leaf there, which is a patterned color or a patterned design. And we're gonna pop that right here, like so. There we go. Okay, and then we have these 2 little acorn tops. The larger one is going to go on the right-hand side. So get your glue on that. And there's going to be a little bit of a gap here. And you want to kind of, you want to line it up with the very bottom of the shadow shape that's included there. So it should look like that. To make sure it's not sticking off. It's not. That looks good. Okay, and the last one here. Get that in place. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so there is the little focal point of our little band. And so what we're going to do with this is the little band that actually goes around the candle. I'm going to train it to make it round because it's going to have to take on that form. I'm going to grab my candle and wrap it around and just glue it to itself. I don't want this pointing down. Okay. And make it tight, but not too tight. We want it to stick, but we don't want it to be impossible to get off. Just throw a little bit of glue right on the very end of that. Okay. And just overlap that nicely. Make sure it matches up. Don't make it too tight, but tight enough. Give it a little bit of slack. And press that down. Okay, give that a second to dry. And then it's up to you. I personally would probably glue this onto the area where we just joined the 2 sides together. And I'm also going to grab my dowel and kind of flare this out a little bit just to curve it so it's not all flat. Okay, that center one, just a tad. Okay, let's get our glue pretty much right here where they join, like that. And get that nice and centered there, like that. And just hold that in place for a minute. Okay, that really is going to add a nice continuity to this piece. Okay, and let's turn this on and create a little ambiance in our work area here. What's going on here? There we go. These are really cool little candles. Okay, so you can see how cute that is. and it's going to coordinate nicely with the actual project here. Okay, so moving on, we've got these pieces here. So let's go ahead and this should be pretty dry here. I'm going to go ahead and train this out a little bit just to kind of give it a little more interest. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with our little oak leaf there. Just kind of so it's not so flat. Okay, and our oak leaf is going to go under. Let's curl these up too. Just give them a slight curl. Jazz it up a bit. There we go. Okay. All right, so we can get our glue onto this piece here. Now I have some embossing going on there, so I'm going to throw a little extra glue on there just in case all the areas don't make contact. Try to make sure that you have it nice and symmetrical. Okay, that looks good, I hope. I'll turn them back now. I guess I can always kind of adjust it here and there. That looks good. Okay, and now we're gonna put together a little flower here. Okay, and actually, you know what we should do is work on the stamen part. This is something new here. I already folded mine in half, so mine kind of looks weird. Yours is just gonna be nice and clean and flat. And what you're gonna need to do is fold this thing in half first. So I kind of just did it in little sections. I did like this side first just to make sure that I got it nice and folded in half. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is just kind of wrap this thing around itself. Okay, and I'm using, I want to say this is, I don't think this is 80-pound cardstock. I think this is thicker. So it might be a little bit harder if you're using thicker cardstock, but the idea is to just kind of wrap it around itself. And as you go, just add a little dot of glue here at the bottom of the strip, just to kind of help it stay in place. Okay, and it may want to kind of fight itself. Just kind of push down on the paper and just kind of force it along. And I'm just going to add a few dots here. Actually, I can probably just do a little thin line of glue going down here. But the idea is to kind of get that effect like that. Okay, so again, it might be kind of fighting itself a little bit, but that's okay. Just keep on trucking along. I'm kind of doing this now so that it really gets a good hold on itself and is easier to work with later on. So you can see what the bottom looks like. It's just rolled nice and tight. Okay. Not too tight though. You don't want to rip it. I think this is, if you try to get it too tight, it might rip. Okay, just working it along, kind of like that. And then when we're done and this thing is fully set, kind of flare these little individual pieces out a tad to kind of give it a little more, so it takes up a little bit more area. Okay, again, just kind of wrapping it around itself. Try to make sure that the bottom stays fairly flat. It may not be perfect, but that's kind of what you're looking for. Okay, and I'm just going to hold that together until it fully sets, and then again we're going to just kind of flare these out a little bit to give it a little dimension. It makes it look nice and interesting. We've never really done anything like this before, so there we go. Look at that. Very cool. And that's going to be the center of our flower. So let's just put that off to the side for a second and let that set nicely for us. Okay. Oh, God. Okay, now as far as the flower goes, we've got a two-step process here. What we want to do is we want to curl these leaves to kind of cup them. So I'm using a dowel to cup the leaves, or the petals, I should say. We're going to go around and do that to all of them. And then for the other ones, we're just going to curl those in. We're going to train them. And today started off on the cool side, and now it's back to 80 degrees, which means that with all these lights in here, it is getting warm. I think during the last video I was getting so hot that I kind of got dizzy while I was crafting. So appreciate the regulated environment that you have. I have air conditioning in here. I can't run it because it's really loud because it's kind of a contained space. It is 700 square feet, but with an AC unit that's actually inside here, it's it's hard to muffle it enough to where I could actually have it on while I'm recording these videos. I promise you, if I had it running right now, you'd be like, what is that noise? And you probably would turn this off or mute me, and that probably wouldn't help the cause either. But it's okay. I'm sucking it up because I love you guys. All right, so again, just kind of pressing it up against the dowel to give them a slight little curve. You can see the difference here, hopefully. Let's see. Let's take this one, put it side by side. You can see how flat that is. Well, I don't know if you can, well, yeah, you can see it from this angle. So you can see the little shadows that are playing on it, where if I hold this one up, or I can just put these down, you can see how that's really flat, but you see that there's little shadows happening there. So that's really what you want to do with these petals. And we're just going to glue these on top of each other. There's going to be 3 layers, and then there's going to be 3 layers of the smaller ones there. But those are going to be curled in, and then we're going to finish off the flower with that little stamen piece that's drying for us right now. Okay, so it should go pretty quick for us. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of fold these in just slightly. They're going to end up kind of falling back out, which is fine, but we want to give them a little bit of an oomph. I'm going to do that to all of these actually. And again, once we actually get everything in place, we'll want to go back and finesse everything, because I'm sure these things will kind of get jostled around a little bit while we're assembling everything and touching this and pressing that, and we'll give it one more little look before we call it a day here. So I'm going to throw a little bit of glue onto that, and then place this one inside of that one, but offset it so that the petals are in the center of the other petals. Okay, that's going to create just a more full sort of look. Okay, that's good enough. And now do the same thing here. Throw some glue down right in the center, and we're going to offset these as well. Okay, just like that. And then when we're done, again, we're going to kind of flare these out and create some separation. So here's what I'm talking about. We pushed them up, but again, because of my pushing and grabbing and poking and all that stuff, you can see that it starts to kind of flatten out. So we'll go back in and just kind of ruffle these up a little bit and make it a little more full. Okay, and bring these back a little bit to create separation on the middle ones. And there we go. Our flower is starting to take form here. There we go. All right, so now we've got these 3 pieces, and you'll notice that they vary in size. Okay, there's a large one, a middle one, and a small one. The large one's going to go in first, and what we want to do is we want to curl these petals. Okay, and we really want to kind of make the curl very pronounced. Okay, I'm going to see if I can, probably going to have to do this with a dowel. Just grab it like that and curl it around the dowel. And again, we're probably going to have to go back in and finesse this a little bit once we get everything glued together. and that's fine. Right now we're taking those fibers in the paper and kind of stretching them a little bit, and also training them so that they maintain this little shape. They have kind of a memory to it, which is kind of interesting. Okay, and then we can kind of push this in. Now, which one was this? Was that the large one? Yeah, that's the large one. Let's see here. Yep. Okay, so good. So we start with the large one and just kind of curl that in. And I'm just going to kind of cup it. And let's grab our glue. You can put it here or you can put it in there. I don't think it really matters. And let's get that centered in our flower. Get it nice and centered. Okay. Again, don't worry too much about this. I'm kind of being a little compulsive about this, but that's okay. There we go. All right, grab the next largest one, and just like I did, just kind of curl it around your dowel. And I did all 3 projects today with a little bit of prep yesterday, so I am ready to have a drink. And that is actually someone that is going to pick up some champagne for me. Well, that was interesting, wasn't it? Okay. All right, so we're going to cup that. And let's get our glue on this layer here. And pop that in there. Just do your best to slightly offset that as well so that the petals are not right on top of each other. There we go. It's looking really pretty. This is a really cool flower, actually. And last one here. I'm going to wait to kind of pull those in once this is all said and done here, because otherwise they're just going to flatten out again. And there's like so many times that I'm going to want to try to finesse these things, so just probably just wait until everything is all done here. Okay, so got this one done here. Let's flip it over and get our glue on the back and get that glued into place. Okay, and kind of offset those as well. Try to get them nice and centered if you can. There we go. Awesome. So now I can take all these and kind of scrunch them in. And I'm going to let that set a little bit more before I do anything else. I think I kind of, there we go. That's more centered. And let's get it offset a little more. There we go. Okay. All right, so we're going to let this fully set, but before we do, and we can start working on the actual base of this thing, I'm going to put on some glue on this little stamen piece, little interior. Okay, and I'm going to pop that right in the middle. You might want to put a little extra glue on there, especially if you've got some embossing going on your flower there. A very cool flower. Okay, all right, so that's that. And now we're going to glue this onto this piece here. So we're going to try to get that nice and centered. I'm just looking in the back here. That looks about right, I think. Yeah, there we go. And just give that a little push. And again, we're going to finesse this later on once everything is nice and set. But that is what the center of our little luminary or our little candle holder thing is going to look like. Okay, so that's done. These are ready to go. These are gonna go just on the outside of this, just to kind of add a little bit of green, but they actually attach to the face of the bottommost part. All right, so now what we're gonna do, we'll do one more little simple thing. We're gonna put together this little box, and here's our chance to dance our way. And what I mean by that is we can make a box and not really worry too much about how perfect it is, because this box is going inside of the main box, and it's just a structural piece to kind of help offset the weight of the candle. Okay, so throw a little bit of glue on that tab there and close that up. Just connect it. And I'm going to power through this because, like I said, no one's going to see this part. Okay. And as long as the glue holds and it's structurally sound and you still, get everything lined up correctly, that's fine. But I'm not worried about every little seam looking perfect here because no one's going to see this. This is going to be tucked away inside. We'll probably never see the light of day again, but it will have a very important job. So that's good. Okay, connect that tab to that side, and then the last one here. Let's get some glue on this tab here. As you can see, I'm kind of being sloppy about it. Get that glued. Oh yeah, you never really see glue coming out like that in my projects lately. All right, nice and flat, that's good. Let me clean off this glue bottle. Okay, and a little bit there. And just connect one side of this square to one of the tabs there. You can put this down on your table and press down. Okay, and then got 3 more here. Typically, I'll run the glue out to the edge. I'm not worried about that right now. I just want this to hold. And it's just a little weight-bearing box. It's going to go inside of the other box. Okay, so we're pretty much there. All that's really left to do is build, and actually that came out pretty darn perfect anyway, so yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, so on to the next section here. Now we've got this piece here, it's a decorative piece, and real quick, we want to just take and apply these little acorns, and there's a little guide there to help you with the positioning of the acorns. That looks good. Let's get a little bit of glue on the back of this piece. I'm repeating myself here, but for people that are new, maybe this is your first project with Dreaming Tree, I like to work in a flat space as much as possible. So it's easier to put these on now than it would be later when our box is fully assembled. Okay, so that is why we're doing this now, just to make life easier later on. There we go. Okay, so we got our little acorns in place. I'm gonna nudge that just a tad, it looks a little off. Okay, so what we're gonna do, and actually we've got a few more little things here to do while this is flat. Okay, we are going to put on well, so here's the situation here. What we're going to do is this piece here, I want this to be the top because it's already, the sides are already joined. I would much rather that if I don't do a good job of putting this large piece on, I would much rather that it be on the bottom because you won't see it as much. Okay, so we're kind of just selectively being neater by just observing, really. And that being said, since this is the top, and again, working in a flat space, I'm going to put my panels on, but I want to make sure that when I put this on, that the orientation is correct. Okay, so we want the acorns to be at the bottom. You don't want it upside down like this. You want it like this. Okay, so this is going to be my front, and that is also going to be the top. And don't worry about these little score marks here. You're not going to see those because we have a little panel that is going to go over that. So let's get our glue on this large strip here, this large panel, and I'm going kind of sparse with the glue here. I don't want this to warp, but you also want to make sure that you get that glue out to the very edge if possible, or as close to, and the sides here. There we go. Okay, and we're going to lay this onto this section here. We want to make sure that we get it nice and centered so that there's a nice even border going all the way around. And I think that is about right. Make sure it's nice and level. I'm going to stick my head in here for just a second. Here we go. All right. And that looks right on. Good job, me. All right. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And now this one doesn't really have a design on it. It's just, you know, a strip of paper. But if you have a specific design printed on it, make sure that you have the orientation correct so that it looks nice and consistent. Okay. I'm going to pop that right on here. Make sure it's nice and centered. Nice even border all the way around. Whoops. And that's pretty good there, I think. Let's make sure it's level. That looks good. All right. Okay. Now, we'll let this kind of set for a second. These are our sides. So let's get our tabs folded real quick, and then we'll put our panels on. And I'm not really worried about how I put the panels on yet, because this is a symmetrical piece. Once we get to gluing everything, then we'll kind of be concerned about what goes where to make sure that this pattern that I'm using is being glued consistently so that all of these little scallops, or whatever you want to call them, are facing in the same direction. So let's get that glued right in the center, nice even border all the way around, and press that in place. Okay, that's pretty good. And the last one here. There we go. Okay, so our panels are in place. And now, so let's take a look at this now. So that's our top, this is our front. Okay, now again, if you're using a pattern and you want it to be consistent, what I'm going to do then is this one's going to go here. So I need to glue this tab to this side here. So let's get some glue on this tab here. I'm going to get one right out to the edge. I want it to be nice and crisp. This darker paper, for some reason, seems to absorb glue faster. I wonder what causes that. All right, so I'm just kind of lining this up. Let me get that nice and lined up there. Just working flat here. Kind of casting a shadow on myself here. Get that nice and lined up, nice and centered. And push that tab over. I'm going to bring this back this way and make sure that I've got that in place correctly. It was a tad bit off. Okay, let's take a look at our work here. That looks good. Okay, so now that's our front, and that looks good, I think. There we go. Okay, so now this one, let's make sure that we get that right. Yep, so like that. Again, if you're just using a pattern that doesn't matter, then you don't really need to worry too much about which side goes where or the orientation of anything. It's just I'm using a pattern and I want it to be consistent all the way through. So just trying to make sure that I put everything in the right spot. Okay, there we go. So let's get that lined up. Now typically on a box like this, all these tabs are already kind of connected, but because this is such a large piece, all right, so I've got that lined up. We had to kind of separate all these pieces to fit on a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. Okay, so there we go. Got that all nice and connected like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to join these sides to these sides to kind of form our box. So you can go ahead and get your glue on this tab here. Get some glue right out to the edge. Spread that nice and thin. And just connect those two corners there. Give it a good press. And again, because we were tricky, this is going to be the bottom, this part here. And if we don't do the most perfect job, it's still going to look great because the top is already assembled. And you can see how nice and crisp that looks. Okay, so let's get some glue on this next tab here. And let's spread that thin. Bring it in and connect it to this side here. Make sure that those corners are nice and aligned. Just like that. Give it a good squeeze. Oh, there's a little glue there. There we go. Okay, 2 more sides. We just have a few more little boxes to put together and this thing will be done. All right, so I'm putting glue on this tab here. Nice little line out to the edge. Spread it thin. Wipe it under your desk. Or don't. Just kidding. And get that connected. I equate me wiping glue under my desk to, for those of you that have watched Bob Ross, after he cleans off his brush, he smacks it against his easel, and then he always giggles afterwards. He thinks that's the funnest thing ever. I have a lot of fun putting glue under my desk. So that is my equivalent. It's an homage to Mr. Ross. So now, it never really was that before. Anyway, I'm just finishing up this last section here. I had to come up with a good reason as to why I was putting glue under my desk. That didn't sound lazy, and that's my explanation. We'll just keep that between us, okay? All right, so last little corner here is going together. And there we go, all done. All right, so now you can see that that looks really nice because this was already connected. Okay, except for the sides, but those look great too. All right, so we're gonna take our little square now and pop that in, okay? And you should be able to see the little score marks in here. There's 4 of them. As long as you're pretty close, I wouldn't worry too much about making sure that it's exact. It's gonna bear the load of that candle regardless of whether or not you're an inch shy. So just put some glue on this little square that we created and pop it in here and let it set. Okay, and that again is just gonna prevent this thing from sagging. All right, so next, let's find the front. This is the front. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start on the front and glue this piece down to close it off, close up the bottom. So I'm gonna get my glue on this long tab here. That is a long one. And a little bit here towards the very edge. And I'm kind of not getting it where I want it to, but that's fine. Spread that glue thin. And this is going to be our little anchor piece here. So let's do a really good job of getting this lined up with that edge. Okay, make sure that it's right up to the very edge of that wall. That looks perfect. Hold down the ends there. Okay. And I may need to go back in here and give these little edges, the corners, a little extra love. I'm going to lay this down and push down from the inside to really get that to grip. Let's take a look at that. Okay, and again, it's the bottom, so I'm not overly concerned about it. But let me show you a little trick here. I'm just going to grab a scrap piece of paper. I'm going to throw a little bit of glue on this thing and just paint the glue onto the underside of the paper. It helps if it's straight, just like that. And then we can push that down and just hold that little area where it didn't really get a full grip until it fully sets, like that. Okay, and I have a couple little areas here that could use a little extra TLC. And again, this is the bottom, so it's a good thing that we didn't do as well here, because if we did this to the top, it wouldn't look as good, but that's fine. Okay, so just hold those little areas where maybe it just didn't grip as well. And I probably because I just didn't get enough glue on there. I tried to make sure that I was being sparse with it, like I always say, but that time I was a little overly sparse, I would say. Okay, so got the little problem areas all taken care of here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna lift this up, and now we're gonna put glue on the remaining tabs here. Let me get this all in frame. It's kind of a big piece. Okay. Doing a little curly Q thing here. Now I'm making waves. Just kind of do it how I feel. And again, nice little line right up to the very edge. You gotta work quick because this little area here is pretty long. And I try to have a steady hand, but sometimes, there we go. Sometimes just slip. Okay, let's spread that out to the very edge. There we go. And flare this out a little bit. And you can also just throw a little bit of glue in here if you want. Flare these out. Let's push this down. Make contact with all of these little edges here, and as you are pushing down, just kind of run your fingers and your hand along the sides here and get all that nice and connected. Okay, that looks like a pretty nice looking seam there, and I see a little problem area here, so I'm going to fix that real quick. My panel on the front right here is kind of a little loose. I didn't get enough glue there. So I'm just going to paint a little glue underneath and push that down to clean it up nicely. Okay, so main structure is done. Feels nice and strong. That's good. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this piece on top. All right, so this is gonna get glued on now, right on top here. So let's get our glue on here. And I'd be kind of sparse in the center, but focus your efforts around the perimeter. I'd say that's probably the most important. Oops. You can see that glue's already starting to dry. You gotta act quick. All right, let's pop that on top. And get that glued down. Make sure you got it nice and lined up throughout the project. And again, we can go in, and sometimes it's hard to get all these little areas to sit perfectly flush without warping it. That's my biggest thing, is to not warp the paper. I want it to be nice and crisp. And I think that actually worked out very nicely. Okay, wow. I'm on a roll today, guys. Okay, all right, so that is that. Now, all we have to do is put together the next little box on top, and then 2 more little boxes. It's kind of like a 3-layered sort of thing happening here. All right, so we've got this piece here with the hole in it. This is where the big Luminera candle is going to go. And I'm going to go ahead and fold everything at the tabs. Okay. So we've got the 2 sides. So it's going to go like that. But we need to put some sides on here. Now, before we do that, let's kind of decide. Well, I think I've already decided this is going to be my top. Actually, I don't think it really matters. This green piece here is going to go over one of these sides here. Okay, so it's going to go like that. Let's get that glued down before we do anything else, because this piece is kind of hollow, and I don't want to risk bending it or creasing it by putting this piece on after we construct this piece here. So I'm going to do this now while everything's flat. Okay, and getting my glue on here. And let's focus our efforts on the perimeter here, because we want to make sure that that sits nicely for us. There we go. And just line it up with the little hole in the center, but also make sure that you got a nice even border going all the way around. And I think I nailed it. Sure did. Okay. There we go. That looks great. All right, now we're going to take these 2 pieces, and these are our sides. Let's fold all the tabs over. And it's going to create the little walls on the side. Okay. All right, so what we want to do is we want to glue one of these to, it really doesn't matter which side. I'm gonna put it on this side with this tab. So let's get our glue on this tab here, and let's work one out to the edge. I think this glue bottle is starting to go. Okay, just line it up nicely, right up so that it's in between the 2 sets of score lines there. Get it as close as you can, press it down, and then you can flip it over onto itself and use your fingers up here and your eyes to make sure that the alignment is nice and precise. And I think I did a good job with that. Let's have a look here. Yep, that looks good. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And yeah, it doesn't really matter. This is a, what's it called? A symmetrical piece. This glue bottle is toast. There we go. Yeah, it's flowing. There we go. Now it's almost coming out too hard. There we go. I think it's another little subliminal thing there, especially with this quick dry. Sometimes, depending on the state of it, it flows differently. And I feel like, you know, working with little paper piecing things, just like doing flat things, is really a good way to start. Not only to get your feet wet, but to get a feel for the glue bottle as well, to know what to expect as far as what kind of pressure you're going to need to provide while you're squeezing, and I think that just makes the whole job more consistent. Okay, so we've got the two sides on, and what we're going to do at this point is just connect everything to create a really thin little rectangular box. So go ahead and put some glue on this triangular tab here, right out to the very edge. And I'm going to dab that, get it right up in there. Okay, and then take this piece here and just line it up and give it a squeeze. Just kind of hold that in place while it sets. And we can move on over to the other side here. Grab your glue onto our little triangular tab. I'm going to dab that out to the edge and get that connected. There we go. And just squeeze that until it sets. Yeah, guys, we're just about there. This is nice. It's going to look really nice, actually. This whole bundle is really beautiful. Kudos to the Dreaming Tree team. Thanks to Ron for the beautiful designs and Diana for the awesome engineering and everything. I have to go back in here and clean this up. For some reason, it's not holding how I wanted it to. That's okay. All right, so now we're going to take these two triangular tabs that are kind of in the inside here, and we're probably going to want to put glue on both of them, because once we close this up, I'm probably not going to be able to open it back up to get our glue in there, and we'll have to do it from the inside, but the inside is really thin, so it may prove to be somewhat difficult. So I'm just going to put glue on both sides here and close this up. No, don't close it up, just bring it over and connect that corner there. Get that in place. Oops. You know what, I'm going to do it this way, like this. And I think that I'm just going to have to go back in and just throw a little glue on this piece here. And just pull that in. I think that's got a good hold. And get that side connected. Just press and just be patient there. gets a hold. That side looks good, as does this side. Okay, so we're just going to be patient here while that sets, and then we can close this up by putting glue on all these tabs. Okay. I don't know why I didn't do that before, but this is probably the best way to do it. Take the open flap, place it on your table, let this kind of sit up, and then you can push down from the inside like this. Okay, so whatever works for you. That seemed to have done the trick. Okay, so now all right, now what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on this tab here, these tabs here, I should say. And then, of course, a little bit right to the edge. And let's spread that out nice and thin, right up to the very edge. Okay, and go ahead and close that up. Oops. Just close that up. Make sure it's nice and aligned all the way around, like that. You may need to kind of nudge some areas in and just press down as you're running your fingers along the very edges here. And that's perfect. All right, so got a couple more things to do here. First one is glue this on to the top of our main structure here. Okay, so obviously you want the pattern on top. So what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on the base of this, and it's probably okay if you go a little heavy on this. Even if the paper warps, you're not going to see it. But we definitely want to get our glue out to the edge so we have a nice crisp seam there. Okay, and I am just going to take my finger and kind of just paint it right up to the very corners. Okay, got a little crazy with the glue there. Okay, and let's just take this whole thing, and it might help to kind of get above your table, above this thing, to make sure that you've got a nice even border going all the way around it. You want to get it nice and centered. Okay, I think I did a good job there. Good. Okay, and just press that down. Make sure it gets a good hold all the way around. Okay. I'm going to hold this little, actually I'm going to flip this upside down for a minute, kind of let the weight of itself. All right. So, got two more little boxes to put together for the smaller little candles. Okay, so let's get everything nice and folded here. And we're just going to repeat this process twice. What you want to do is begin by just putting some glue on these little triangular tabs, just one at a time. And maybe move this tab out of the way so that you can get your finger in there a little bit better. And just squeeze and hold that in place until it sets. Now this is kind of like a gold foilish paper, so it may take a little bit more time to fully set, but I think we're doing okay here. that glue right out to the edge there. And let me fold this like that. Bring that in. There we go. Just give it a nice push, press. Okay, and you know what I should have done? We have these little purple pieces that are going to go on top of this, but that's fine. We could have put that on first before we did this, but actually I'll use that to my advantage in case I have one side of this that doesn't come out as good as another side, and I can decide which side's going to be the top or bottom, so it kind of works out. It's fine. Okay, and then we have one more little triangular tab here. Let's get our glue on that. Spread that kind of thin and get that in place. All right, now you can go ahead and close this up. I'm just going to have to make one more of these. Let's get our glue on these 3 tabs here. And I think I know which side's going to be my top. It's going to be the side that I don't have to put the bottom on, because that side's going to look a lot more crisp. All right, so we can close this up. Just making a little box. Kind of nudge those walls in to make sure everything's nice and lined up. There we go. All right, so this is the side right now that I'm pushing down on the side that had the little top on it. So this is probably going to be my bottom. Let me flip this over, take a look at this thing. That looks good. All right, so this is going to be my top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on the bottom of this thing. And again, just make sure you get that glue out to the very edges. There we go. And then on top of this, on top of the box here, in this green section, you'll notice that there are some score marks to help you with the placement of this. Okay, so I'm just gonna, let me get my head in here for 1 second, and then I'll move. Okay, but that is what that's gonna look like. So just get that in place. Give it a little bit of a push. Okay, and then also I've got a little purple piece that we need to glue on top of that, and that is going to be basically the little area where your little smaller tea lights are going to go, and you want to get that nice and centered. You can eyeball that. I don't think we needed markers for that one. All right. And finally, and again, you can kind of skip ahead if you want since we've already made this box, but we just need to make one more box here and then glue our flower to the front. And you'll notice that on the front of this is kind of like a little half circle here. That is where the floral portion is going to go. Okay. So let's get this glued in place just like we did the other one. And just connect the 2 sides together. If this was AC cardstock, it would have gone a lot faster, but this is DCWV. It's kind of got a gloss-like finish to it, so it takes a little bit longer for the paper to, you know, kind of set and take hold. That's okay. All right, just connecting the other corner here. Let me move that out of the way. Okay. All right, one more here. Whoops. got a very inconsistent bottle right now. Move this out of the way, get that in place. Make sure you get that nice and lined up. Give it a squeeze. And finally, we got one more little triangle here. Get that joined. There we go. And we just got to close her up. Get our little purple piece on there, and we are good to go. Okay. Get our glue on here. Whoops. All right, and so we'll flare these out just a tad. Go ahead and close this up to create and close up your little box here. I'm just kind of running my fingers along the edges while I'm applying a downward pressure with my thumbs. Let's kind of make this thing nice and complete. There we go. Let's just add our little circle on here while we have it off. And just get that nice and centered. Just press down, just gently. Okay. And then let's get our glue on the back of this, right out to the edges. I'm going to kind of paint that all the way up to the edge. I don't want it kind of popping up at all. I want it to be nice and flush. I may have to go back in and do a little cleanup on areas like that using my little trick with the scrap piece of paper. Again, find the little score marks there and just get that nice and aligned. I've kind of done the work for you so that you can't get it wrong. And push it down. If you want, you can kind of jam your fingers under there to add a little upward force. Okay, but that's pretty much it as far as the assembly on that goes. Your candle is going to go right in here. Okay, and then finally, we have one more little thing here. There is, again, remember these guys. These guys are going to be kind of pointing downward. There's a set of score marks here. There they are, like that. Okay, and you kind of just want to pop that in there. So the bottom of that, the stem on this thing, is where you're going to put that into that little crevice. And I would put glue on just this leaf and the bottom of that stem. Okay, so let's just go bottom of the stem, this leaf, just halfway up the leaf I think is fine. I'm going to dab that just a tad. And again, just match that up nicely and give that a press. And then this other side, I'm going to do the same thing. So we'll just do that. And when you're putting that down, kind of take a look and just make sure that everything is nice and symmetrical. Okay, so look at where the tip of that little leaf goes. Make sure that it's kind of pointing in the same direction. And then finally, all that's really left to do is glue this down. You'll make sure that your oak leaf is at the bottom. So what I can do, or what I'm going to do, I should say, is I'm going to put my glue here in this little half circle area. There's 3 score marks that kind of make up a circle, and you can put some glue there as well. Oak leaves on the bottom, don't forget that. And let's just get that glued right about there. Okay, make sure it's nice and centered. That looks good. Kind of hold that in place for just a moment while it sets. And then take a look at the final photo on the website for any other things that we may add as far as bling or anything. And as I mentioned before, the inner petals here, these blue ones, once this is all dry, I'm going to curl these in a lot. So take a look at the beginning of the video, as well as the product photo, on how we intended for those petals to look, so that you can replicate that as well. But that is your end result. And the main candle is going to go here, and you're going to have 2 more little tea lights there, and that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the process. If you did, please take a moment to visit us on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. If you do make this project, I'd love to see your version of it. And you can find us on Facebook by doing a search for Dreaming Tree Group. And you can join us and myself and 6,000 other dreamers who share their work with a wonderfully creative community. So thanks again, and I look forward to crafting with you next time.
Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love,